Becca, Webb, and my husband Nathan and I have a business called Two Potters. We work here from our home in Vermont. This is a former dairy farm, and we've converted it to be our pottery studio and shop. I'm the daughter of a teacher and an entrepreneur, and my mom was a weaver, so brought in a little bit of all those things that grew up with into what we're doing now, running a pottery business and making pottery, and then teaching about how to become a entrepreneur for if you're making crafts. So I grew up in New Hampshire and Maine, and moved to Vermont about 10 years ago. Nathan and I have two children, 5 and 3, and keeps us pretty busy. So we find about 3 days a week each to work in our pottery business, and this is our studio. I went to liberal arts college, so I majored in art. So in a way, ceramics was my focus in school. Done as many hiking trips as I could all over the world, and I love to explore, but also love to have this homestead here where we're living on the land and having kind of more of a simple life. The first time I ever saw someone throw a piece of clay on the wheel, and I was mesmerized. I still can see that in my high school art classroom, what she was doing, and I thought that is what I want to do. And so I kept pursuing it. There's something I love about the physicality of it, and I don't know, the process is one that I just keep coming back to more than any other art form, and I just love making functional things. I feel like most of what I do to be a working potter is nothing that I went to school for. I am grateful that I learned how to make nice pots and look at them and think about them, and I'm grateful that I learned how to write. Beyond that, I think most of my other training has been mostly self-taught. Learning how to fire kilns, learning how to have the discipline it takes to be a self-employed person and get up every day whether you're feeling creative or not and do the work. How to market the work and sell it and photograph it, and stay in touch with all of your customers, run a solid business, I think is something I've just learned from doing for over the last 15 years. I got started at a pretty young age, and then once I got out of college I knew that I wanted to be a potter at the end of the dirt road, with the gardens and, the kids running around. It's funny though, I think like every dream that you have, of course, it's the reality of it is a little different than you thought. So we're kind of constantly thinking about what we can do to make it more of what the dream, right? Instead of, waking up every morning and thinking, this is so stressful, I have to make all these pots. We're trying to create a lifestyle that works for us and for our family. My creative process, it's a good question. It kind of builds on what I've made before, I think. When I'm thinking up new forms, I'm always thinking about what is my aesthetic. I like soft lines and organic shapes. Lately I've been doing a lot with the mason jar form to make different types of functional pieces. So I kind of think of where I've been and what I love, and then I try to come up with something new from those two things. I would say one of the most challenging things is also one of the most fun, which is that there's so many different jobs that we have in any given day of being a full-time professional potter. I am responsible for all of we call it the front end of our business, so the website and the photography and the communication with customers. And I love all of those things, but I also have to make the work. There has to be enough to sell when you have a show. So I think juggling all the different parts of what we need to do. For me is that I can sort of lose myself in it a little bit. I love that it's so tactile, it's so forgiving, in the wet stage anyway. After the firing stage is a different story, of course. Most potters will know you never know what you're going to get, especially with our wood firing process. But I love the physicality of it, and that every piece is a little different. I love throwing on the wheel. you know, people often say it's meditative, and I think it is in a way. It's just a different form. You kind of get into a flow, and I really enjoy that part of the process. Well, I'll never forget what someone told me. I don't know if this is the coolest thing I've ever heard. At the moment I heard it, it really kind of threw me for a loop. I was in college, and I had a professional potter say to me, "If you can do something else, you should do it." And I thought, what? That is so cynical. It's like, this is what I want to do. And I think I understand more of it now that I'm into it, you know, and juggling the family and all that. But I don't think I could have done anything else. This is what I wanted to do 100%. And I think that's what he meant also, that if you're all in, you're all in. You know, the pieces of pottery have gotten lighter, although I try to keep in mind to not being too light. We wood fire, so the pieces that are sturdier will do better. I also like the way a thicker mug will hold the heat of your coffee or tea for longer. So I think about the weight and the sort of the balance of pieces. Over the years, I have definitely you know, gotten things to be a little bit more uniform and more of a cohesive style, I would say. I try to trust in the process that, you know, that I'm right where I should be, that everything, if it's an obstacle, it's a learning experience that I need to have at that moment. I try to be really mindful of, I've always tried to make what I wanted to make in my heart of hearts and sell that rather than start with what do people want to buy. Because I wanted to keep doing it, and I felt that that was the most sustainable, inspiring way for me to be an artist. I find there's a really different energy with a piece of pottery or a piece of artwork that is truly what the artist is interested in making rather than something that they're making just to sell. And I've always tried to stick with that and trust that, you know, my people are out there, and the people that have been following us for a long time really appreciate that I've developed my work, that it changes a little bit every year, but they can still collect pieces. But from the beginning, it was always, what do I want to make? You know, it's within the realm of function, and so there's obviously a lot of advantages to selling functional work. Someone can use it. As far as like the business side of things go, challenges there, I guess I try to, I'm an overthinker, and I really try to like analyze a lot what's coming in terms of income, what is going to work the best for our life right now. We've tried to grow our online presence in a way that we do more online sales now than we used to, which is for us works with our family life. And growing the online business has meant that we needed to improve our photography and really work on that, which has been a fun project for me. So I would say the challenges in some way are, they push me to learn new things, to develop new skills, and that's really rewarding. We tend to work with more neutral, sort of like browns and tans are what come out of the wood kiln when the pieces are unglazed. So like brown, tan, sand color, peachy colors, and then we use a brighter turquoise glaze, kind of a warm yellow that I call goldenrod, and a sprinkling of others, sort of a dark red, and what else? There's a matte black that's a really interesting color, and it also has a cool feature. The black glaze can be used like a chalkboard, so you can write on it with chalk, which is, I always wanted to have, you know, something where if you're serving at a party, you've got a carafe and you could write, you know, what's in this. So that's been a fun glaze to develop too. I make a lot of these mason jar style shapes, and I love playing with the dimensions of them. So I'll make one that looks more like a traditional mason jar in proportions, that can be used like a vase or a cup. Then I like to like squish them down and turn them into a little planter. I've been having a lot of fun with plants lately, so it's kind of a place I'd like to do more with, or things I'd like to do more with. Some of these will actually be This one is sort of doesn't really have a bottom. This is going to be a hanging planter. So I was taking the mason jar shape and kind of rounding it out and doing something different with it. We do take orders, so we've been making a lot of dinnerware and things, and we're just trying to make dishes that will work really well together and be easy and pleasurable to use. This is one of our carafes. Of course, it's all dirty from being in the studio here with me, but this has been one of our more popular forms recently. I got the idea from those, I think it's like a French glass, just a carafe really, but I said, well, let's make one out of clay, and Nathan, so this is a chance where I came up with the idea, and then he refined the form a little bit. And they're really great, like you can grab by the neck and pour. So I keep this one in my studio for I drink a lot of water. I like to just keep drinking water. And this is that black glaze that I mentioned that you can use like a chalkboard. So if you're having a party, you can write, herbal tea with honey or whatever it is. I've always just tried not to look too much around and say, oh, well, I'll make that or that or that. I just try to stay within my own creative process and just kind of keep riffing on my own ideas, I guess. So, of course, I'm taking inspiration from all over and function inspiration from other potters and things, but I try to stick within my aesthetic and kind of develop and change the forms from there. It's funny, what inspires me is more almost like crafting a life. What inspires me is trying to work creatively, raise a family, stay balanced and healthy, take care of myself and my family. So I'm inspired by, I would say, it sounds silly, but health and wellness. Mental health is really important to me too. So I've been really putting a focus on those things ahead of most other things. And I find that work that I'm doing in those arenas has really affected my business and my creative work in really positive ways. So this wood-fired kiln is a kiln that Nathan and I built together starting in 2009, and it took us about 3 years to build the kiln and the barn above it. We designed it. We wanted a kiln that would put a lot of wood ash directly on our pots, so the wood gets stoked in the front and the pottery is all stacked in the same chamber where the wood burns, and so the ash lands on the pieces and creates a natural blaze. So it holds about 1,300 pieces that we make over a period of months, and once we have enough work, we will load everything into the kiln over about a 2-week period, getting everything placed just right for the glaze that's on it or that's not on it, and just fitting everything together like a puzzle. After those 2 weeks, we will start the fire, a very small fire at first, and that is actually down here under here. And then it will go for 4 days, day and night. So we'll have a team of friends and fellow potters here who will each take a 6-hour shift, and we'll go around the clock for 4 days with that firing process. It cools for a week afterwards, so we can't see any of the results for a whole week. And when that week's finished, we can finally unbrick the door and see what we've made and how it came out. So it's a pretty unique process. We love it. I feel like I'm right where I want to be. I love what I'm doing. I feel really passionate about creating objects that are perceived as beautiful. I think they're beautiful. Other people think they're beautiful. They add a lot to someone's life. That is really fulfilling to me. The teaching side of my work is, I think I'd like to grow that and do more of it. I feel really passionate about sharing what I've learned by doing it myself for 15 years with others. So I'm looking into, coaching and teaching more workshops from here. I have more of an interest in connecting with people in the real world. We do a lot on social media, but I'm trying to use that as a tool to meet people in person, and whether it's having workshops here or getting out in the world and meeting other people through the internet is really fun for me. So I'd like to continue doing that and develop more of a community around our work and our business. The advice that I find myself giving a lot is find something that's sustainable. And what I mean by that is, if you're making work that you love, that's going to be a lot easier to continue to pursue. Treat everyone that buys your work with respect and kindness, and take care of people. That kind of stuff goes a long way towards success.